Psalm 92. We talked about verse 2 last time. I really like the concept of what I talked about then. It's good to proclaim your unfailing love in the morning, your faithfulness in the evening. And so my kind of challenge was in the morning, remind yourself of God's unfailing love. Reflect on how it showed up. And one of the things I might add to that is the ways that you hope it will show up today. Pardon me. And then you proclaim. I think about this. I'm proclaiming it to myself. And in the evening, you proclaim His faithfulness. Look back at the day. You're going to have days, possibly many days, where there wasn't anything dramatic. You do realize that God's faithfulness is, it's not a matter of drama. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be huge. He's faithful. Okay. And then he goes on in verse 3, and this part of it becomes, well, a little less individual and maybe a little more corporate. Verse 3, accompanied by a 10-stringed instrument, a harp, and the melody of a lyre. What David was, I screw up when I keep wanting this to be David. If it were David, I think we would know it. I think it would have been made plain. I mean, that's the way David's Psalms show up here. So anyway, accompanied by a 10-stringed instrument, a harp, and the melody of a lyre. Not L-I-A-R, it's L-Y-R-E. I just had the horrible thought that there are churches all over the place that, as mean-spirited as this sounds, when the worship team steps up, there's somebody on that stage, you're going to hear the melody from a lyre. I'm horrible. I guess what I think for us, do I have to learn how to play a 10-stringed harp or a lyre in order to proclaim the unfailing love and the faithfulness of God? No. I do think, though, looking at the Jewish tradition of worship, the tradition was to book in the days with times of worship at the temple, and there, I would love to. I don't want to go back and live then, but I would love to get in a time machine and go back and visit these BC times when the temple was still up and existed, and I would love to be able to observe and somehow have the ability to participate in temple worship. What I have studied a little bit on this, and what I've discovered is there was a lot of music at the temple. As a matter of fact, the temple musicians were they were given quite a lot of privilege, and they were counted on to provide the music, instrumental music, as well as the vocal music. But it's not like the kind of music that you and I we're going to hear at our church, any church on the block or in town. Have you if you've ever been to the Middle East, then I think you're going to, you can join me in saying, boy, there's a lot of that music in the Middle East that is, uh, it is definitely not the kind of music you and I grew up with. Now, Jewish music is not all like that. There's a lot of variety in Jewish music. But without going into this big musicology thing, you know what? When we make music, when we accompany our declaration of God's unfailing love and his faithfulness, that it fits. Okay. Well, and by the way, I will say, music is one of the things in our walk with Christ where our preferences play a huge role. And a lot of preference is the result of our experience. And I can't get past this. I mean, I can't explain it away. For me, a lot of my musical preference comes from the fact that I grew up in I was born in 53. Once you get to about 1964 musically, man, the world changed and music changed. And that's the world of music I grew up in. I'm grateful that I was exposed to classical music, good music, and I mean, I probably have better memories of myself than are true, but I was able, even when I was in high school, to discriminate between, top 40 music that was good and top 40 music that was, come on. Well, okay. Your musical preferences are going to shape how you respond to God musically. It's okay. Okay, there's not. I grew up in the 70s, 60s and 70s, where there's a huge debate about rock and roll is of the devil, and it's all about the devil beat, and it's all. Well, sorry, that didn't age very well. Okay, verse 4. You thrill me, Lord, with all you have done for me. I sing for joy because of what you've done. Now, everybody is not wired to be enthusiastic about everything. I know a few people, very few people, that, holy smokes, they are literally, well, my experience with them is that they are enthusiastic about virtually everything. That's just how they're wired. Me, I'm not, well, first of all, I'm not as enthusiastic as I used to be about almost everything. When you're young, generally, young people are more enthusiastic about things. Well, okay. But even in my old age, boy, it hurts to have to say that, but okay. I am training myself to retain enthusiasm, and not just blanket enthusiasm, but where did this, what thrilled the psalmist? You thrill me, Lord, with all you have done for me. You can't be thrilled by all that God has done for you if you don't look back and notice it. If you're running at such a high rate of speed that you can't slow down enough to reflect on what has happened in your life, what God has brought into your life, how He has blessed you, the things He has done for you, you're running at way too high a speed, and it will catch up with you. To be thrilled by God, you have to reflect on His work in your life. It seems like I'm saying this all the time, over and over and over again. I can't get past the fact that God's design, because of He's the designer and the creator, this is the best way to live. His design is for us to remember the ways that He has worked in our lives and notice the ways He is working in our lives and be thrilled. I would get thrilled if I had, $25,000 dropped on me out of the blue. Well, yeah, that's pretty thrilling. I don't think it's fair, or it's certainly not wise for me to think, well, that when that happens, then I'll be thrilled. I want to train myself. I want to discipline myself so that I notice God's work in my life, and it thrills me. Oh, yeah, okay. I should probably send you $120 for this session. And then he says, sing for joy because I sing for joy because of what you have done. I like the idea of singing for joy. There are sad songs. And there are even some legitimate worship songs that are sad because life involves sadness. But when I reflect on what God has done and what He is doing in my life, and it thrills me, there's a part of me, even if I weren't a musician, there would be a part of me that's going to want to get it out there, express the joy. And this psalmist says, I sing for joy because of what you have done. I think the psalmist that wrote this was not just a poet. I think he, and we have every reason to believe it was a he. I don't mean to be sexist here, but history is pretty plain. It would have been a man, and that this man was a musician. Who else is going to talk about accompanying our proclamation of God's everlasting love and His faithfulness with a harp and a 10-stringed instrument and a lyre, and then say, I sing for joy because of what you have done? You can be a very bad singer and sing for joy because of what God has done, and I am fully convinced, it's a conviction of mine, that if you are a bad singer and you sing out of joy for what God has done for you, God will be pleased. If you do it in the shower or the garage or in your car when you're alone, or if maybe you are a singer. I know this from my own life. It should be easy for me to just sing all the time, but I don't. My life gets all jammed with other stuff, and it ought to be a practice. Whether you sing well or whether you sing not so well, it ought to be a practice. To sing as a reflection of our joy, an expression of our joy because of what God I sing for joy because of what you have done. So today, what has God done? Look back, think about it, and I don't care whether you're a good singer or a bad singer, sing for joy because of what God has done. I'll see you next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.